Good morning. I'm Dr. Laura, and welcome to the Higher View. I'm really excited about our guest today. Lu Molberg is our guest, and she's a Sifu master, and she teaches Qigong and Tai Chi. And her experience, she has 40 years of experience as a leader, a consultant, seminar presenter, professional speaker, college instructor. And then also she was, which I think is really interesting, I do want to talk about this too. She was the director of the Riverside County Office on Aging. And so I want to welcome her this morning. Lu, it's wonderful to see you. And we were talking before the show, and you've been at the center teaching for about 18 years. I remember I started at one of your first classes that you did, and it just amazing, amazing.
That's right. You were one of the charter students back in 2004 when classes started. It was right after Dr. Joe had done that strategic planning retreat to find out things that the center might do to reach out and serve the community. And that's when it all began. And it's been absolutely a joy to have that as a base and to offer those classes to people over all those years. Many thousands of lives have been touched because of that.
Yes, and Lu, you and your beloved Tony were just so wonderful. I mean, as a court reporter, I know that you have a judge, you have attorneys, people from all walks of life are into Tai Chi, and right? I mean,
Yes,
so
I'm just thinking of one. I've had one of everybody, but I was thinking of one. He was at the center in Palm Springs, and he said, "Lou, I'm a New York cop. If I'd ever gone this slow in my job, I wouldn't even be here. I would have been dead." He was so precious. Yeah,
well.
it's people, all people can do Tai Chi. There's no boundaries, there's no limits of any kind.
So tell me, what are the benefits, what you feel are the benefits of learning Tai Chi and doing it?
Well, it goes beyond what I feel because it's now been well researched and documented. And one of the key ones, of course, is health. And you can Google Tai Chi for health, and you will be astounded by the number of research studies that have been done and are continuing to be done around the world. And the benefits are quite profound. And it actually literally affects you at the cellular structure, this energy movement through the body when you are relaxed and intentional and rooted to earth. Of course, it also comes from a history of martial arts. So the
Mhm.
very essence of the way you stand, the way you step, the balance you gain, the postures you assume, they're all protective and helping you preserve and defend your own sacred space. Because after all, we're all stewards of our own sacred space. Only we can fill it, occupy it, and keep it safe. And we decide what happens in it and what we let into it. And then the third thing people will talk about is the peace of mind, the relaxation, the calming, and it certainly is a form of spiritual meditation for many people because you are dealing with the gathering and circulation of universal energy. And in our teaching, we understand what that means.
Right.
So we say people come for many different reasons. Some come because their doctor said, some come because they're anxious. Some people come because they want to get safer and know how to protect themselves. But if you do form correctly, you get all the benefits.
Right. Well, and that's what I loved. What I loved about it, especially in those days back in 2003 and 4. It's hard to meditate, but what I loved about Tai Chi was it was like a moving meditation. I mean, because you really are focused on doing the movements properly, so your head's not all over the place. You can't. It's such a grounding, relaxing, and yet energizing practice where you're not like sweating when you're over. it's you know and so that was what I loved about it. But tell us how you got into it. I mean, with your background with teaching, and so how did you get into Tai Chi? What I got into it because you were at the center, but
Right. Well, it's quite interesting how we are led and guided to things that might be of benefit to us, and then we can choose. And it was after my former husband had passed away. I was fairly exhausted and needing to rebuild because he'd been ill for a while. And I was looking for something to do. And I didn't want a meditation class. I didn't want just a class. I didn't want to go exercise. I wanted something that would challenge me and also help me meet people. And then I was a director of the Office on Aging then in Riverside County. And I
Oh.
received this call from Sifu Noel, who was the other teacher that was certified by Master Paul Peter Lee, who brought Tai Chi to the Valley here. And he said, Lou, do you have grants for Tai Chi for seniors at the Office on Aging? And of course, we did not, but we got quite acquainted on the phone. And when I asked him where his Tai Chi classes were taught, he said at Palapas. And I don't know if you remember where Palapas.
Oh, yeah, I love that place.
Well, I live a block and a half from there, so of course it was around the corner for me to start classes. And I said, well, I think I'd like to come. When do you have beginners class? And he laughed. This is Tai Chi talk. He laughed and said, Lou, we're all beginners.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first exposure to a different way of thinking than our Western way. Beginning, learning, acing, graduating, and knowing. And this is the opposite. And it's just all experiential. And so I began classes and it changed my life. It saved my life too. It changed my life and saved my life and certainly gave me what has been the most powerful, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. Yeah. Lou and her husband, Tony, were just they're wonderful. And Lou it's like watching art and movement to watch Lu do her Tai Chi. It really, it's so graceful and so beautiful, and it's so inspiring and stuff.
I've been practicing for 25 years now, and we have a saying in any energy practice. Well, people say, how did you get into Tai Chi? And we would say, well, I didn't get.
Oh, we lost your sound for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Say that again, Lou, because your sound went out.
Saying in Tai Chi, when people would say, how did you get into Tai Chi? And what we say is, I didn't get into Tai Chi. Tai Chi got into me. Because people, it's one of those things like when you come to the center and you know, this is my place. You go to a Tai Chi class and you recognize it as your place, or you say, this isn't for me right now. And some people say, not right now, but they come back later. And it's like that. It's a relationship to something that is part of your inner being and not an external experience kind of thing.
So let me ask you, Lou, were you able to get them the grant for Tai Chi?
No, we didn't have any grants for Tai Chi, but what I ended up doing is helping Sifu Noel do a strategic plan that advanced the whole thing in the valley. And then, of course, I did most of my study with him because Master Lee was no longer teaching regular classes then, although he was certainly my guide in all the tradition. And I also helped Sifu Noel and got my early teaching experience in his classes because he was around the valley.
Well, and I've got a list here of all the classes that you have taken. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like amazing how many workshops you have attended in this and how, I mean, so Lou, how many students do you think you have maybe over the course taught?
Well, it's certainly in the thousands. It's not in the hundreds. It's in the thousands. And I'm teaching the 108 young family form, a traditional Tai Chi long form, and that's not the kind of Tai Chi all people may be drawn to. It's a lot of people want to do that. Other people want something a little different. And as in yoga, there are many kinds of Tai Chi. And the major difference, I would say, is there's health Tai Chi and then there's traditional Tai Chi. Health Tai Chi is pretty much a shorter routine done more like a physical therapy routine to help your body and give you benefits. The traditional Tai Chi is grounded in all the principles, all the energetic issues of your protection and the internal intention and so on. And so it's a little more, takes a little more commitment to learn it. You have to be committed to stay over time. Health Tai Chi, you could go in and out for a few weeks and benefit and you're fine. And I'm teaching traditional long form Tai Chi. When the Chinese masters brought it here in the 60s, and Master Lee was one of those, he was in New York working as an interpreter at NATO. And then he came to Palm Springs and began the Flower Drum restaurant here and
Oh,
taught Chinese culture on the side. That was my master. And when those masters came, a lot of them didn't teach the long form. They thought Americans were too undisciplined, too lazy, and too impatient to learn a long form. So they developed a lot of shorter forms. And they're very popular all across the United States. So as it turns out, the yang form is probably the most popular around the world. But long form, the 108 form I teach, is probably not among the most practiced. It's more likely people are doing a shorter form. And people need to know that because you can find a class that fits you.
mhm. You're right. Well, I know we were doing the long form, and I didn't even know that there were other, But it's funny. Anytime I see a movie when they're doing things, I go, "Oh, I remember." And what I loved about it too is when you teach it, you're telling us like the energy that we're. I mean, you're
Yeah.
explaining what's going on, and what we're really doing is moving energy
Yes.
and like in our hands. I remember the energy in our hands and so forth. And I really think, I mean, it's a benefit for anybody, but I think for us elder people, it's really good for balance to help, because as you get older, sometimes your balance isn't quite as good. I'm going to have to start coming back and taking
Well,
classes again.
Dr. Laura, there are going to be more options now when things open up again. There'll be classes at all hours and in all locations because there are going to be so many more people teaching. I will have a cadre of 14 or 15 teachers that I've certified over the years that will be teaching around the valley at different times in different places. So it's going to be more available to people to find an option. And I'm really hopeful that more people will pursue this or some other energy practice because it will help us all heal from this COVID experience we've had to endure over the last months.
Well, and not only that, Lou, I think the peace of mind that it instills, because because of COVID and what's going on in our own country and around the world, it really, as we know in science of mind, our thinking, the energy that we put out in the universe has an effect. And so to calm, I mean, it's such to me, it was such a calming, peaceful feeling. And
Yes.
yet, and you don't feel drained afterwards. Actually, you feel energized. It's different, I mean, am I wrong? But that's my
We're practicing,
experience.
Dr. Laura, that means you were practicing very good form because
Oh,
that's exactly how it works. That means you gathered a lot of energy, you enhanced your energy, and you left with more than you arrived with. And that's exactly what the cycle is. And even though we share energy in this practice or in any energy practice, you don't just get it because it's good for you. It's a circle. So you take in and you give back. And there's a power there in many levels, as we all understand, in doing that. And you also feel, and you probably did feel this, the experience of other people's energy as you practice together. You're in this beautiful little enhanced energy bubble of combined energy, which is supportive and also nurturing. And so it's a multiple level experience, and people are drawn to it for different reasons. Everybody experiences it individually. It's their own experience. It's your own internal journey. There's no judgment. There's no timelines. There's no standards. There's just practice of a
right.
beautiful tradition.
Right, because I remember when I was taking it and you were teaching it in the evening, I think after you got off of work, because I think you were still working for the Riverside County, the
That's
Department
correct.
of Aging
Yes.
then.
Yes.
And and I wasn't really, I don't even know if, well, I must have been a minister if Dr. Joe was there, but I was a staff minister. And I remember I'd get off of work and I'd rush over from work. And so I've been working all day, like, oh, do I really want to go? But it's like, no, I gotta go. And it just, it really, it just really energized me, but not to the point where now I'm frenetic, but just where my energy level was at peace, and and I was energized. And I love what you said, because isn't that I mean, in quantum physics, which I love, it's that energy that we put out into the universe is what we get back. And I love that idea that we're putting out that wonderful energy from within us and the universe is, getting back. And so not only are we benefiting ourselves by doing this, this method, this art form, I think it's an art form. But we're healing ourselves, but we're also healing the planet and putting out that energy.
That's right. And, Tai Chi really saved my life. I don't know if I ever told you the story of how I started teaching, but Tony and I were in Mexico visiting his brother in Cuernavaca, and we'd taken a weekend trip to Acapulco over Thanksgiving, I believe it was. And I was out running in the morning, and he was behind me walking, and I got hit by a transit truck as I was running on the left hip. It turned suddenly into the street as I was crossing it, and I was thrown across the road. My head hit the windshield and broke the windshield, and I was tossed to the other side of the road. And of course, I was taken to the hospital and so on. And I didn't have any internal injuries. I didn't have a concussion. I didn't have a fractured hip. I was hit by a truck. And when I went to the doctor back in Cuernavaca to have the stitches out, because I had a pretty rough cut on my eye from the windshield, that doctor said, Lou, I don't know what you're doing that you walked in here on crutches because you should be dead. And I told him, well, I run and I do a little yoga and I do Tai Chi. And he said, say no more. Tai Chi saved your life. And he'd done martial arts all of his life and then gone to Tai Chi. And he said, furthermore, if you were here in Mexico, you would be teaching all my patients of all ages because of
Ooh.
the health benefits. And so then I decided I would go home and start teaching. I had been delaying because I was still at the Office on Aging. Said, no, I do not need another sign. I'd better stop delaying because it really was my calling to do this. And
Oh,
teaching, that's when I started teaching. I did not need another truck to give me the nudge. I was quite aware I'd better get going.
wow. Well, the universe sent you a huge message, huh?
Yeah, that's in my book, the Tai Chi Lead with Chi book. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, and
Wow.
it's interesting too, because I learned all of the application of these energy principles in my consulting work and in my leadership work. Because from my perspective, and you know this from the center's perspective, you talk about it all the time. Any organization is a accumulation of a bunch of energy.
Hmm.
And you help people change the energy with their intention and you change the organization. That's
Right.
really what the center is.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, Lou, you used to, when we were open, you used to do your Tai Chi classes in the sanctuary over there,
That's
like on the left side. And so maybe that was your energy that you leave in there with your classes, because people will always say when they come into the sanctuary, wow, there's such an energy. I mean, I know it's all of us, but I'm sure your group contributed to that energy now that I'm
we
thinking
all
about
do. Yeah, we all do. Because I
it.
felt the energy when I first went there too. It's there.
Yeah, no, there is a wonderful
Yeah.
energy in the sanctuary. It's really sad now when we film we have to film the talks, and I mean you still feel it, but it's not like when everybody's there, it just because when that just inspires you to talk just because you're getting that energy from people, that love that comes to us when we're speaking. So
Yeah.
I really get that. So what are you doing now with COVID? And I know you're still teaching, but you're teaching the instructors so that we have more people out there in the world to
But
get
I
this
have
out.
seven, I have seven Sifu apprentices who are on the pathway to getting certified, and hopefully they'll be certified sometime this year. And I do private lessons for them, which is part of their pathway, outside on my patio, one at a time, masked and far apart when we are not sequestered. So that gives me an appointment, through the week because that's a big commitment. And I also do an online lesson for all of my students. I don't teach beginning students now. I don't do that anymore. I have so many teachers trained. I work with my advanced students and the Sifu circle, the teacher circle, because that's really where my responsibility is to be sure the legacy is transmitted. In our teaching, the way Tai Chi got here is that somebody transmitted the tradition to somebody else who learned the form and then learned the tradition and then committed to pass it on. It is through that trust, respect relationship that has gone through all these hundreds of years. And it's a very revered relationship. So people that commit to teaching really make a deep commitment to pass on that tradition. The form, yes, but the form is the tool to access the energy, and it's all guided by the tradition, the warrior's code, the tradition of respect. By the warrior's code, I mean that it was never, even though it was martial, it was do no harm, manage yourself, take control of yourself. You have no need to control others. Do no harm, protect others, keep things safe. It's that kind of a code, very deeply embedded in respect for life, respect for others. Indigenous, the way other indigenous peoples have taught that. And it's kind of tied to Taoism, respect for
Mhm.
nature. Yeah, like other indigenous teachings, the web of life, the energy that binds us together, deep respect for Mother Earth. And one thing I loved about Native American teaching was the theory of seven. Any decision you make it in the context of the next 7 generations.
Oh,
Any opinion you hold strongly, think of at least 6 other explanations that could also explain it. So see, there are 7 possibilities in how you could see anything, and 7 different ways you could be right in looking at the same thing. Those kinds of teachings are kind of all woven into this, the respect for others and, being part of the bigger picture. And it's a form of being in your place, being in your place in the universe, and not get so much into other people's places. Fill your own place fully with what you have to offer.
oh, I love that. So Lou, because I had gotten to the third level, and that's when I had to drop out because I think you moved it to Friday mornings, and with my job, I just couldn't do it. But so let me ask you then, after you finish that third level, then is that when you want, if you want to be a teacher, is that what, because we really didn't, I mean, you would touch on different principles, but you didn't go into that much depth like you
Now,
did.
people are called, some people know they want to teach before they even have learned the full form. It's
Mhm.
sort of a thing that you just know this is something I resonate with. I understand what it is, and I want to commit and do this. And of course, it is a commitment. It's a
Mhm.
huge commitment. So that really comes from an internal recognition, I think. And then, of course, I would have to say, yes, I think you can get on that pathway. And we begin that kind of tuition, a special kind of tuition for the extra things needed.
Right. So it's actually like classroom then too, but it's beyond
Not, oh,
move.
not really. It's very much one to one. Yeah, that's a one-to-one thing because there's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self going deeper into your own form, a lot of coaching from your teacher while you do that, a lot of embedding what the energetic aspects are of that form so you can transmit it, understanding how the tradition would fit in. There's a high protocol in classrooms for respect. And
Yeah.
in our society today, that's not necessarily a given. So at how you manage that, Doug compares that to how he manages that in court.
Right. Yeah. Because
Yeah, yeah.
one of her students used to be an attorney that I worked for, but he's now an appellate court judge. And one of the kindest, most gentle, sweet people that I've ever known, and brilliant, and just a wonderful man. And yeah, so he's studying to be one of her teachers, and so the health benefits too, Lou, like you said, like your accident. So do you think when you hit that, the truck hit you, do you think because of the way your body moves and stuff that
That's what the doctor said, because you learn to become so relaxed that you don't have resistance, because you break bones and you hurt yourself if you resist. But I literally felt myself float like a ribbon or float like a leaf because there was no resistance. Did I make up my mind to do it? No.
it was
The teachers
natural?
tell us it gets in your muscle memory. It gets in your muscle memory. Your body self protects. And
Right.
people who practice Tai Chi have many less falls. And if they fall, they have less fractures simply for that reason.
Right. Right. I would really suggest for anybody, even if you meditate or especially if you have a hard time meditating, this to me is a great alternative or to get you in that place where you can sit quietly and meditate. I know it helped me a lot with that. And Lou is just wonderful. So Lou, kind of just skipping around, I just wanted to ask you, what did you do with the Office for Aging? What was
Well,
that all about?
I was an appointed administrator, appointed by the Board of Supervisors, serving in a political position at the will of the board, managing this office that administered programs that came from the federal and state government for helping people remain independently at home. And although it was targeted more to low income people for the services, it was certainly available to help all seniors. And the time I was there was really the time of promoting alternatives to institutional care, a service system that could help people keep at home, information and referral lines that could help people know where the resources are and how they could access it, and things that help people get into positive social situations that would celebrate aging and see aging as a period of growth and development and enhancement of your life. Now those things are almost automatic
You're
because
right.
we have advanced, but that was not always true in our society. We had a lot of ageism, a lot of stereotypes, and the older population has become a strong voice speaking for itself now and has learned how to mobilize these things. Past generations weren't quite that active. And I believe the Office on Aging is still there. In fact, I think someone told me if you call that number, 800-510-2020, they'll help you find out about where to get your shot for your vaccine. And
Oh,
yeah, so that's just a good little thing for people to know.
what was that number again? It was
800
uh-huh.
510 800 510 2020.
Well, the 2020 will be easy to remember.
Yes, and 510 is like the 5 and 10 store.
Yeah, that's cute. 5 to 10 star. That's cute. Oh, well, that's great because I remember you had talked to me. You helped me with my mom with some suggestions you had made because my mom has dementia, and that really helped me because I didn't know where to turn. So I really appreciated that.
You
You
know, Dr. Lo, I'll just say this, it was such a time in my life because I was coming out of over 20 years of running my own business, doing professional consulting and teaching and leadership development and all that all around the country and in Canada. And people that knew me said, "You're going to go where and do what?" Because they knew me as this very active agent of change. And I kind of laughed, said, "Yeah, I'm going to go to local government and take on this political position with all the suits." That's what we called the traditional bureaucrats in their blue suits, and they'd kind of laugh. But then the people that knew me spiritually said, "Well, Lou, where do you think they need it more?"
That's
It was
right.
interesting, those two perspectives. And I hung out 16 years. I wouldn't have made it that long without Tony because
Oh,
it was very, very challenging. It was very political. It was very male. It was very exhausting, but I did manage to, flatten my department and do team leadership. And we did a lot of community things and, open doorways and stuff. It's possible.
right. Oh, yeah.
But
Anything is possible if you've got the determination, and I'm sure your Tai Chi helped you.
and one of the department heads who was a career bureaucrat said, Lou, sometimes people think that the programs you run should be in big departments like mine, but we need people like you to keep us on our toes.
I think
So
that
that's
I
kind of how I was seen, I guess.
right. So what kind of consulting work did you do
Well,
before
I
that?
started my own company, the Webster Institute, the Planning and Management of Change. I worked with boards of directors and leadership teams, 99% of which were men at the time, to help them develop their strategic planning vision or come to a consensus on what they were going to do with their organizational future. And then I did motivational leadership workshops because all those leaders are burned out. The boards are burned out and the management teams are burned out, especially in the long-term care field, the aging field,
Oh,
but
that's a rough.
healthcare as well, hospitals. Yeah, it was mostly hospitals and these large long-term care developments. I did that here in California too when I relocated before I went to the county. and in Canada. I did it in Canada as well. And then I did a lot of workshops to help people with how to build more quality into your programs, how to work with your staff, how to train your staff to be more motivated, that kind of stuff.
God. Well, I'm going to tap into you for information. Could you please show, she wants to know if we can show classes online. How would they find out about your
Well,
classes?
no, right now we are in a plateau with classes because of COVID. The thing that will be opening first, I predict, will be the program that Annenberg offers out at Sunnylands Gardens, and then a class that's scheduled to be opening at the river when it's timely. And it will be a free introduction to Tai Chi, an hour of introductions. You can start understanding what it is and do some rudimentary, things to understand it. And that's a good way. A lot of people get exposed to it. Some people just do that out at Sunnylands. That's been going on 4 years, and they never go anywhere else. They just enjoy that. Other people start that and they say, "Oh, I think I want to do classes." And when classes do resume, it will all be on the website.
Right. So your class right now that you're doing online, it's already for people who have already taken your in person, or because you said
I'm not doing a class online for the public or even for my students. I'm doing email lessons on right now for my students. And the online Zoom thing I do is a very private thing for the Rocksteady boxing class that Tony used to attend. It's for the boxers and for their caregivers. And I do that Qigong class on Zoom. But I'm not offering any Tai Chi classes online right now, nor are any of the teachers that I'm aware of. We're all priming and getting ready when we reopen. And then there will be a variety of things around the valley, I can promise you.
right, right. And then hopefully, Lou, if you let us know at the center, we'll post something so people will know that where they can go to get
Yes.
the lessons. Because Lou
Yes.
used to teach in the sanctuary, like I said, every Friday morning. Her and Tony would be in there teaching their classes, and I think
we probably arrange for a student, one of my teachers, to come and teach beginning classes there. That can be very possible. I personally won't be taking beginners anymore because it's a huge commitment to take people as beginners. I've sort of
right,
done that for 18
right.
years. So the new teachers will do that, but we can make that available if the center wants that. So there could be beginning classes held at the center. That's very
Yeah,
possible.
maybe out in the garden,
That would
out of,
be very
you know,
possible.
we might
Yeah,
be able to do that.
yeah.
So
So we
we'll
can
look
talk.
into,
If we
yeah,
can
we'll
be
talk
of
about that. And
yeah,
and for sure, and there's her website, so you can go to Lou's website there, and then maybe she has coming events on there, so you'll be able to find out what's going on, and there's information about her and what she does. But I think yeah, it's kind of bad that we're holding this carrot and then getting them excited, and then they can't do the class right now. But
but I do think that Sunnylands is going to be opening soon. I really do think they may be getting back to doing that because they were talking about it before the last shutdown, and
uh-huh.
that's really a fun place to go. I think they've had up to 70 people there on a Saturday morning, and they have 3 teachers out there, I believe, 3 of my teachers out there with it, and people just love it, and it's such a beautiful place to go. So we can certainly let people at the center know when that opens again.
Absolutely. And so one of your instructors teaches that then.
Yeah, there's actually 3 of them. Sunnylands hired
Uh-huh.
them to do that, and
Oh,
they
good.
that free service to the community.
So just here in the valley, how many people do you think you've taught?
Oh, I don't know. Between myself and teachers that I've taught,
Mhm.
probably a couple thousand, several thousand.
Wow. But isn't that wonderful to know that there are people out there doing this practice, and the history behind it. And I do remember when you would teach us, some of the moves that you would explain how that was like a martial art because you're moving your energy to get out of the way and using their energy to move them. And so I do remember those types of moves and stuff.
It's the
But
dance of life. Yeah, it's the dance of life. It's like a dance, an energy dance. And you always have that imaginary partner with you. Just like the yin yang symbol of Tai Chi is the symbol of complementary opposites coexisting. It's not either or, it's both and. Think of what would happen in the world if we just could go from either or, either I'm right or you're right, either my church or your church, either my country to both and. And
right,
that's contained in that little yin yang symbol, which
right.
brought me in. I mean, I really liked that early on because you didn't hear that a lot of places, that it's
No.
both and. It's both and. It's
Yeah,
all,
it's like it doesn't it seem like such a simplistic idea,
yeah,
but yet it's such a it causes such division. If I'm wrong, if you're right, then I'm wrong.
mhm.
Whereas why can't we both be right from our perspective? I honor your perspective and you honor my perspective, and we're all part of the one. Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if people just aren't frightened that if somebody else is also right, then maybe I'm not right or something. I only need to have one right so I feel more secure because at a time there's so much uncertainty, people look for more security. And when there's a lot of rights, it's very insecure for some people. There's a need to have just one and then I'm safe kind of thing. So I don't know, but I know there's more peace when you just have both
Right.
and.
Both.
Okay, and
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think what happens is somebody's afraid that if you're right and I'm wrong, I'm going to lose something. And so
yeah,
sometimes we try to hold on because then how do I identify if
yes,
if you're right and I'm wrong versus,
yeah.
oh, I can still be this and you can be that and we're both right. What a great way to live. Isn't that
Are
right?
we
You know,
having fun?
yeah, that's what
Viva
life
las
is.
Vegas. Aren't we having fun? Yes.
Exactly. And we can learn from each other. We can learn. That's why I love, I love, like, that's why I love the quantum physics and I love science because let me get a drink. I'm here, choking here. That we learn so much about how our energy works. Excuse me. and and that's the thing about and what we know in science of mind, it's all energy too. It's our thoughts, our energy, what we put out, we get back. You know and so it's like what you were talking about, the energy you put out, the energy you get back. And that's like when we talk about tithing or money, or when you do good, the universe abhors a vacuum. So if you put out that good energy, then the universe says, oh my gosh, I got to give more good energy to keep that equilibrium going. If you put out negativity or fear and you're putting that out, then that's being depleted. The universe says, oh, got to give more and more to be fearful about and fill up that negativity bucket. And so that's the beauty, I think, of Tai Chi. And I talked last week about Ho'oponopono. And when I went to see Dr. Hugh Lin, you and Tony were there and you studied that. But doesn't that go with the Tai Chi,
Oh,
that
very much. So drawn to
peace?
that. And Tony and I went to 3 of his workshops because we were so in love with him. And we did together, and I still do the full Ho'oponopono prayer series every morning as part
Mhm.
of treating for healing in the universe. And I've done that so much, Dr. Laura. I know in your class last week you talked about that. Um, Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. I've done that so many times when we were going into family gatherings where there might be tension or a family reunion or somebody, and you can't believe the shift and how it shifts energy so dramatically if you just do it with intention. But part of that, I think, maybe why we're so drawn to that is part of that is the feminine energy, which is really coming into the planet in a greater way. And I have to comment just related to that in Tai Chi for women. Because if you look at the background, women could never do this practice in China because these traditional forms and these secrets, which is the secrets of energy and how to use the power of energy, could only be passed down from family to family member They were kept very sacred in the family. These forms are family forms. And so women would marry and go to another family. And so they couldn't learn the form. And so this is only recently that women have been open up to all of this. And I think they're bringing an entire new dimension of powerful energy, those that practice Tai Chi. And it was a difficult step for me to actually accept I could teach Tai Chi in this male tradition as a woman. And I found out not only could I teach it, but I was very unique as a teacher and had a very special gift to give as a teacher, and would even draw males to study from a woman as a teacher.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but this was all so new, and there were never women teachers when I was studying. All my teachers were male. There was only one woman ever on the cover of Tai Chi magazine, which is now extinct. Over all the years I took that magazine, only one, because there weren't any to put on the cover. And now it is so different because it's part of this feminine energy streaming and spreading in oh so many different ways. And
Yeah,
it's such a beautiful thing to be part of it in any way. And we're all part of it.
right. Well, it's interesting. When I had started Soul Sisters years ago, and now Dale's taking it in Spirit of Women, and thank goodness, Reverend Dale's taking it over. I just don't have time. But when I had been meditating up on a vortex up the hill from one of our congregants told me, you need to go, the goddess wants to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. So I went up there and I meditated, and what came to me is Laura, women, it's time for women. Women need to step up and step into their power and who they are and claim who they are, and the world needs the feminine energy, and it's going to need it even more. So we need to get them ready. And so, and what's interesting, Lou, is I know so many people that have had babies recently. They're all females. There's very few males coming into the world. And that's like, I don't know, and so, yeah, I don't know why that is, but it's interesting, and you're right. Like, you made a difference in the world, the government, bringing that feminine energy. It was difficult and I too was working in the work field in the 70s, and it was always dominated by men. I remember I worked at Bank of America, was my first real job. And I remember my supervisor, she knew everything about the bank. They'd get some young guy, some young whippersnapper who knew nothing about banking but had his college degree. She'd have to train him and he would get the job. And you never saw that many women in banking, and now it's shifted. But yeah, and I think too that's what's going on in our country. There's a shift in people that are afraid of losing or giving up, thinking instead of, wow, we could really be powerful if we work together. What could we create if we work together with your ideas and my ideas, versus being afraid that if I agree with you, that I'm going to be considered wrong. Right?
Sure. Back in the day, here's a little ditty about women evolving. Back in the day when the ATM cards came out, and my husband and I had a joint account with two incomes going in, I went to the bank and asked for an ATM card. And I was told, we only give the ATM card. We already gave the ATM card to your husband. And I said, well, we have two incomes going in. I'd also like an ATM card. I would like to be able to draw my money out. We don't give the ATM card to the women because they might draw out too much money. So I wrote a letter to the president of that bank, and I said, I write pretty good letters, and I was younger and a little more advocating than for women, and pointed out the options, a class action suit, I had several different actions. And of course, I got an apology letter back, my ATM card enclosed, and a copy of their new policy to issue cards. And that's sort of, the history of where we've come from that wasn't so long ago.
No.
ATM cards are not, hundreds of years ago. That was fairly recent.
Wow. But that's it. But you have to sometimes step up and say, no, I won't take this, but you didn't come you didn't charge the bank, did you? You didn't come in with a and break down the bank. You wrote a nice letter and said this
Yeah,
needs to
and it
change.
is, you can find ways to tell people, but they just didn't know. They just didn't know. They were victims of their own ignorance and how they'd been socialized and what they'd experienced to date. And once you point things out, they want to do what's right.
Sure. Absolutely.
They don't
Absolutely.
want to
Oh,
lose their customers. That's a lot of women to lose. I
that
think
is
at
a lot. Hmm.
I think one of the options was picketing the bank, having hundreds of women picket the bank, and maybe another option was to get all the women to withdraw their money. I had quite a creative list.
Right.
Boy,
Yeah,
they
that
thought it was a very good idea to give women and customers an ATM card.
yeah, definitely. Especially when you're putting money in your own money into it and you
Of
can't have access. It
course.
makes no sense, right?
And what about women that were sole providers? They couldn't have one then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it does not make sense. So what was that? The Virginia Slims commercial? Remember, you've come a long way, baby. And they'd
Maybe,
have
right. Right. And it's just part of learning. It's part of our progression as a human species. And, it's just to help one another get a little more compassion and understanding and realize the web of interdependence
yeah,
with each other.
exactly. It's just like when we were talking this week in our book study, the God solution, about how instead of us hoarding things, and that's like hoarding your energy or hoarding who you are, that we have so much to give, and like we said, the more we give, the more we get back. And I think that there's such a fear of lack on energy or anything. Oh, I can't do that because I'm going to use up all
Mhm,
my energy if I do
mhm.
that. I don't have the energy to do that. If you're saying you don't have the energy to do that, that means you definitely need to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so it'll be wonderful. And you're right. I think you guys gave an exhibit or exhibition one time out at Annenberg, didn't you? I know you did at the river. Went and watched you a few times at the river, but I think, or at least somebody, might have been Carol Hotspur. I don't remember, but I remember going out to Annenberg a few years ago and seeing them all in there. And let me just tell you, if you ever even can just go see a group do it, it's so beautiful. It's like going to watch a ballet, really. It's so, the movement and the grace, and you could just see everybody's focus is like laser focus on what they're doing. It is a beautiful thing. It's beautiful to even just watch.
There's one more thing I would share, Dr. Laura, about that. Um, Master Gu, who's one of my beloved Tai Chi teachers, I have several. Another one is Chun-Yi Lin, who's at the Qigong Center in Minneapolis. But Master Gu says we've got to get back into our bodies. We've left our bodies. And what he
Mm.
means is we live in our mind. We live in our mind, and everything's happening in our mind, and then our mind does things to our bodies. We have to occupy our body to be home, because that's the car our soul drives when we're here on planet Earth. And then he talks about these energy practices as a way to return home to your body. And one of the things I loved about him, he would say when he started his lesson, all right, we'll get in our place. The universe is in me. I'm in the universe. The universe and I are one. Now you're in your place. Did you know that was your place? Then he'll say, number two, no energy practice works until you smile. And you might smile at your insides. You're always so worried about smiling what's around you outside. But when's the last time you smiled at your heart or your liver? Because they're keeping you alive. Smile means start my internal love engine.
Ooh, I like that.
Get it back
Ooh.
into our body. And people always laugh in my class when I say, have you thanked your liver lately? Have you said good morning to your heart and given them a smile? If not, why not?
So tell me again what the smile stands for. Start.
Start my internal love engine.
Oh, I love that.
I
Love
love.
and
I think that's actually from Master Chun Yi Lin at the Spring Forest Qigong Center. But it's very true. All the masters in energy practice will tell you that you have to smile. You have to smile because you're not relaxed. You cannot be tense if you're smiling. And when you smile, it helps you relax. It's not easy for us to relax, but it's relax, root, and set your intention. Connect your eyes to the universe. That's kind of your place. And like go back home in your body. And so that's all part of it. And even taking that place gets you out of all the to do, and the hubbub and all of it. And then we talk a lot about monkey mind because monkey mind is always running the show. And we tell monkey mind it has to go to sleep and just rest until we're done with our Tai Chi. The stuff will still be there. You can get it on the way out, but
Right.
just let it go for a little bit.
Right. Oh, it's like when people come into the center on Sunday, Dr. Joey says, okay, you're here, let go of whatever your issues were, leave them
Yes,
outside at the door.
yes,
Now you can get fed and you can always pick them up when you go out if you still want them,
yeah.
and that's true. But I love that. Start my internal love engine.
That's
You
my
know, yeah,
Dr. Lynn, yes. And it's so good. And to smile. When you smile at your internal body, you are giving so much blessing to all these things. And remember, Tai Chi is an internal energy experience. It's all
mhm,
happening internally. And one of the masters said it's like a dishwasher washing all of your internal essence and just cleansing everything. The energy is so, so powerful.
right.
And so
Well,
easy. It's so easy. You
it's
don't
so
even have to know but a few moves and you can get all the benefits. You don't have to do a long, long practice.
No, no. And what it kind of reminds me of the whole idea of, when you said about like smile at your liver and stuff. And I
Mhm.
always think about that, how, when people come with health challenges and so forth, how often do you thank your body? Thank you, my heart. I mean, think of you don't even think about it. The monkey mind isn't running the heart. It's what's in your subconscious and stuff, and it's taking care of it. Every cell in your body is a spark of the divine, right? It is the divine. And so, are you feeling the gratitude for every cell in your body? Thank you for what you're doing to keep me alive. And you do it so well, and we don't use that gratitude and that energy, that loving energy, enough, even on ourselves. And I really think Tai Chi is a wonderful way to love yourself and to love the world and bring joy to yourself, to your body, to your muscles, to relax. It's like when I always tell, disease is being out of comfort, not being at peace. And that's kind of what Dr. Hugh Lin taught us too. And so every time you get upset, just think of the energy that you're putting into your body. Your little cells, I always picture them just swimming through, doing what they do, enjoy. And then all of a sudden they get zapped by this energy, and then they get deformed. And now they're afraid because when am I going to get zapped again? So how can they do their job? Right. So
That's
if
right.
we're right, how can they do a good job if you keep zapping them with negativity and fear and anger? But when you do that, so I think Tai Chi is just a great starting place, if to really physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it really is a spiritual practice,
Yeah.
Lou, isn't it?
Well, for me, it became my life mission, and I must say I enjoyed all aspects of my professional life. I feel, as most of us did, that we did good work when we did our work, and we made a contribution, and we did it from the heart and gave our best. And so I certainly don't discredit any of the things I've done, but I have never, ever received the satisfaction or the gratification or the fulfillment from any professional work I've done that I have from transmitting Tai Chi and seeing how it transforms people's lives. And I'm just so grateful that I found this practice for myself and that I have this opportunity to assure the tradition will continue here in the Coachella Valley. Master Lee came from Taiwan. He learned this traditional form from his grandfather, Wuhan, when he was in Taiwan. And Wuhan had learned from the disciples of the original young Grand Master that started this form. So we're rooted in very traditional Tai Chi form. And one thing about traditional Tai Chi form is you know your heritage, you know where it came from and what was the origin. And Master Lee just had this simple commitment to pass on this form for joy and for harmony among other people. And
Mm.
he said, you practice Tai Chi because it makes you happy. I teach Tai Chi because it makes me happy, and I want to share Tai Chi because it will help the world be happy. That was
Oh,
his simple philosophy.
oh, and that's what we need, right? I want to live in a happy world. I want my children to live in a happy world. I want my grandchildren and the generations to come to live in a happy world. And I think, don't like you said, this was your calling. Like I know being a minister is my calling, and yet I know that even if I'm not, if even when I still take depositions, still my calling is to be that light wherever I go. And
Right.
that's all of us, right? You know, and so this, I believe Tai Chi really helps us to get into that energy, into that realization, to bring that peace into your world and into your being. That's why I talked about the Ho'oponopono last week, to be at peace, because that's where the power, that's where the creativity comes, when the monkey mind isn't going and we're at peace. You see, the universe will show you opportunities to be that light and to do what is yours to do.
And we need to image that this is going to happen soon. We'll be able to have our outside gathering soon, and we can keep classes small enough to be a safe number and begin to do this and to help people.
Right.
These teachers that are on the line are really wanting to pass on and to help. And you can't get a bad teacher because they're all so committed and they all love the form. And it's just going to help the valley a lot in this period, the next year, couple of years to get through
Right.
this. Everyone's going to need, people of all ages. Some of my students are looking at doing virtual classes for homebound people that can never
Um,
leave their home so that they would have access to these energy practices. We're a very diverse group, and where our commitment is to make it available to as many people as can possibly benefit in as many locations and sites as possible.
right. It'd be nice if we could teach kids to do
I
it.
actually did a class for the Sunday school at church. I did that once. It was really interesting.
Was
It was,
it?
well, you don't teach the traditional class, of course. You teach them some energy things and some experience with energy, and they loved it. The
Oh,
teenagers were a little more, I'll watch and see what's going on, and they were learning by being a spectator until it came. I don't know if you ever did the thing of the moving the energy with your index finger, and when I started showing that, then of course they got in and learned that. So yeah,
oh,
it was very interesting. You can adapt this to any age
right.
group.
Right. Well, Lou, for sure, when the classes come up, let me know, and then I'll announce it. I'll announce that we've got it posted on our website, because really, people, I'm telling you, especially if you have really difficulty getting at peace, and you have a hard time with just sitting and meditating, this will be a really good precursor to calm you down so that you can do it. And the health benefits, and the your balance, and just the stopping the monkey mind, and it is beautiful, it is powerful. You will, when you start doing some of those hand movements, you'll feel that energy coming out of your hands, and it is powerful, it is
It
powerful.
builds confidence too. I, I have seen people that have come out of some pretty harrowing, defeating kinds of experiences just stand back and erect in their own power, because you get back in touch with this internal power we all have. But sometimes we get, lost on the wrong page. We got to get back in line and in focus. And it certainly helps with that. And for women, it makes you feel safer, more secure that you can take care of yourself.
Yeah, and that's all we want to do, right? We want to feel like we're in control and that we have the power over our lives. So, Lou, I want to thank you so, so much. I love you,
It's
and I
been
want to.
so grateful to have this time with you.
Oh, it was so much fun. And there's a button there. Please support Center for Spiritual Living so that we can continue to bring programs. We at 10 o'clock every day we have something going on. Next week I'm going to have the wonderful Michael Kukuru, who just passed his ministerial panels. He's working on his letter of call, and he's in charge of our grief. I'll have to tell him to get those people in his grief to start taking Tai Chi, because that will help them a lot too. So we will be talking with Reverend Michael next week, and Lou, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for those watching. Please go to Lou's website for more information, and we'll keep you posted when they're going to have their Tai Chi classes again, because you might just see me out there again, starting all over. It got me all excited. It made me realize how much I miss it, actually, really talking about it. So thank you, Lou. I love you. I love Tony's paintings up there. And it's wonderful to see you. And I love all of you. And have a wonderful week. I'll see you next week on The Higher View.